me. I'm not really awake. I'd like to introduce Tricia from England, who has multiple sclerosis. Welcome, Tricia.
Oh, hi. Hi, Linda.
Okay. Could you tell us when you were diagnosed with multiple sclerosis?
It was 2001, but I think I probably had symptoms for about 3 years before that. Nobody knew what it was.
Right, okay. That's sort of pretty standard, I think. And how old were you at the time?
I was just 42 when I was diagnosed, and it was a wonderful birthday present.
Not one that one you'd like to return.
Yes.
So, what was your life like before you were diagnosed? Do you know what was your level of fitness?
I was fairly active. I wasn't a real sporty person, but I enjoyed horse riding and walking and travelling. I loved travelling. I had a very, very good career, a very responsible career, and it was busy, and that involved travelling, and I was very successful. I had to give that up because gradually I just couldn't do things anymore. And my company were very good with me. They did make every adjustment they could.
Mm-hmm. So what impact did the diagnosis make on you and your family?
Oh, I was absolutely devastated, and I think my family and friends were as well. But, once you get used to it, I think it's the first few months you really feel just knocked about, don't you?
Mm.
And, I managed to cope, and I had lots and lots of support, so that helped.
That's very important, isn't it? And what were your symptoms at that time?
Well, I used to get what I called a wobbly knee or a floppy knee. So when I was walking, I would get so far and find that I got a weakness in my knee and I couldn't really straighten it properly. And it's very hard to explain, but that was probably the first symptom. Then a bit later on, I started to get tingling in my finger. And when I actually fell over, I started to get weakness in the ankle as well. I fell over and almost knocked myself out in the swimming pool, believe it or not, in the changing rooms. Mm-hmm. The doctor said, we've got to sort this out, and sent me to see a specialist. And we thought it was a recurring back problem that the nerve had, caused a problem, and I'd suddenly collapse. And the back specialist said, there's nothing wrong with your back. When I had the first little scan, he said, you've got a few tatty bits in your back, but then for your age, what more do you expect? And I thought, oh, great. And then he said, I'd like to refer you to a consultant friend of mine who was a neurologist. And that's when I started to worry. Mm. I was at this time on private health care from work, so the money wasn't a problem, but obviously the fear probably was the worst thing. Anyway, then I went for a full scan and was diagnosed with MS, and that was the end of it, really, for me, I thought.
So,
but obviously not.
How did you learn about LDN?
A friend of a friend was actually being prescribed by her GP, her NHS GP. And my friend found out, told me about this wonderful LDN, and I looked it up, and I found the LDN Trust and Linda.
Uh-huh.
And you were wonderful, Linda.
Thank you. Making me choke now. And so, how did you obtain your prescription? Did your GP prescribe it for you?
Well, my GP very sympathetically wrote off to the consultant and asked for the okay to prescribe it. And the consultant wrote back and said, no evidence.
Right.
So the GP couldn't prescribe it. So thanks to you, Linda, I went to EMED, who were wonderful. I got the letter of the first diagnosis from my doctor and sent it to EMED, and they prescribed LDN. And I've been getting it from Dixon's in Glasgow.
So when did you actually start taking LDN? How long have you been on it now?
A year ago.
Right.
A year ago.
And how has LDN helped with your symptoms?
Obviously, I realise it's not a cure, and that's what was made very clear to me. But the first thing is I walk better, and I think, Linda, when you caught me this morning, I was out for my little morning exercise. I do try and have a little walk, and I think the old use it or lose it thing is very much in my mind. Now I can exercise, I'm doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the big things was raising my hand. I'd noticed this time last year, I'd started to take the kitchen roll, which, because I sneeze dreadfully all the time, I'd started to take the kitchen roll down to waist level before I pulled a sheet off it to blow my nose. And I'd never done that before. And I suddenly noticed that I actually wasn't raising my hand as high as the kitchen roll holder, which was just above my shoulder. Now I can quite happily raise my hand right above my head. I can't leave it there for a long time, but I can raise it.
Yes.
And that was probably the most significant thing. But things like walking, bladder control, climbing stairs, that's all better. And I haven't had a spasm in my lower leg, my right leg, I think since I started taking LDN. I can't actually remember the last spasm I had. And that was the only thing, thankfully, the only thing that I had that was painful.
Right.
And now that's gone. And that's since LDN.
Mm-hmm. Did you have any introductory side effects when you first started?
Perhaps not quite as strong. I was perhaps not walking as well, but it's the time of year when I'm bad anyway, in the winter.
Right.
So,
but I mean, did you have any sleep disturbance or vivid dreams? No.
No more than normal.
Yeah. And, well, silly question really, but are you planning on continuing taking LDN?
Absolutely. Wouldn't give it up.
And what would you say to other people with multiple sclerosis who are thinking of trying LDN?
Well, obviously it's something that is a personal thing, and you should look into it, but you do have to give it time to start having effects. But try it, for goodness sake, try it for a couple of months. There's no real known problems with it, and even if it doesn't suit you, it's worth a try, because believe me, my confidence levels have gone up so much since I took this into my own control. And that's the big thing, isn't it?
It is.
Knowing that you get no help from the NHS.
Well, thank you very much for sharing your story with us, Tricia.
Thank you. Thank you very much for asking me, and I really do hope that it will help lots of other